Money on the Left is an audacious interdisciplinary conference designed to reimagine and appropriate the money relation for a resurgent political left. The conference joins multiple fields of scholarship across the social sciences and humanities, from economics, law, and sociology, and history, to rhetoric and film and media studies. At the same time, Money on the Left brings together practitioners in local and national politics, as well as in media production and the arts. The primary aim of Money on the Left is as focused as it is heterogeneous. Presenters converge in advancing the insights of modern monetary theory, otherwise known as neochartalism. Where they part is in their diverse efforts to revivify money's collective possibilities for leftist politics and culture, and to ultimately overcome the neoliberal catastrophe. So what is modern monetary theory, or MMT, as it is called for short? Simply put, MMT is a contemporary heterodox school of political economy that, at least on one reading, overturns centuries of modern thought about money's nature, structure, and potential. The dominant capital L liberal conception of money that MMT critiques is all too familiar. While variously articulated by classical, neoclassical, Austrian, and even Marxist economics, this orthodox vision sees money as a private, finite, and decentralized instrument of exchange and finance. It also envisions government as a revenue-constrained market regulator and defender of private property. On this model, money is a more or less scarce resource which can never seem to be everywhere that it is needed. MMT, by contrast, begins from wholly different premises, and in so doing, turns the liberal story of money inside out, or more accurately, outside in. MMT argues that money is a boundless public utility, and that this utility is an extension of and wholly internal to centralized governance and law. Understood as such, governments never must tax or borrow before spending, and money can readily be mobilized to serve every community and environment it affects. Given sufficient political will, social imagination, and material resources, money-issuing polities can always afford to meet the social and ecological needs that are extant. They can do so, moreover, without causing deleterious inflation or resorting to a direct Soviet-style command economy. The result opens untold horizons for politics, economics, and ecology. For instance, MMT calls for a green job guarantee, deploying public expenditures and public works as needed to hire anyone willing and able to participate. Such a program stands to eliminate systemic un- and underemployment, turn collective labor toward urgent social and environmental problems, and furnish a just wage and benefits floor for the entire economy in a manner that can socialize and remunerate much unpaid care work. For Money on the Left, MMT's intervention harbors still more questions and unrealized potentials. MMT, we wager, unsettles the very means by which leftist politics and cultures imagine collective pasts and futures. Needless to say, money has long stymied leftist imaginaries, equating the monetary instrument with private exploitation and fiscal policy with redistributive reform. Leftist political culture too often reifies conventional political economy's bankrupt foundations and forecloses money's problems and powers of collective provisioning. Case in point, the 1970s Marxo-feminist wages for housework movement, from which Money on the Left has drawn its own poster image. Breaking with many leftist theories and campaigns, wages for housework called for state remuneration for unpaid, unjust, and largely feminized care labor. Rather than take money's political construction for granted, the movement politicized its patriarchal organization and demanded a specific transformative change. Still, wages for housework Wages for housework theorists and organizers undercut this provocation through their tacit acceptance of the hegemonic conception of money as private, individuated exchange. Disbelieving such a radical transformation was feasible in a modern monetary system, many participants thought that the very unaffordability of their demand would prove the limits of the system and give impetus to a new, as of yet unarticulated system. Money on the left wishes to redeem such transformative impulses, but to rearticulate their conditions of possibility and contestation. More important, rather than waiting for an unspecified new system as people and environments continue to suffer, our contributors want to expand the bounds of the possible right away with the tools ready at hand. Namely, we aim to politicize a limitless public instrument that is already locked and loaded. For this reason, the conference has invited presentations that revisit money's historical role and significance on the left. Drawing upon diverse disciplines and methods, conference panels redress this fraught legacy by problematizing and recuperating the left's past engagements with money. They develop rich neochartalist inquiries into discourse or word, aesthetics or image, and informed activity or praxis. And they do so across diverse socio-historical contexts. Therewith, Money on the Left inaugurates a new scholarly organization and project, the Humanities Division of the Modern Money Network. Historically focused on intersections between law and political economy, the Modern Money Network, or MMN, is a student-founded and chapter-based nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting public understanding of money and finance through education, discussion, and scholarship. Among its efforts, MMN has hosted over 20 video-recorded symposia. Such videos have been widely viewed, suggesting a genuine thirst among the public for deeper understandings of the politics of money and the legal architecture of finance. The Humanities Division means to extend MMN's commitments to education, discussion, and scholarship. Leveraging the vast theoretical and methodological repertoire of the humanities, the division affirms MMT's capacious understanding of money. It critiques liberalism's damaging influences on collective thought and practice. And it discloses fresh social, cultural, and environmental histories rooted in MMT's complex and salutary perspective. With this, MMN's Humanities Division labors to not merely describe money's previous articulations, but also transform its perceived historical conditions and potentials across the globe. Before ceding the floor to my colleagues and co-founder of the Humanities Division, Professor William Saas, I want to thank the numerous persons and institutions who have made this extraordinary event possible. Together, Professor Saas and I wish to thank our co-sponsors, the Modern Money Network and its president, Rowan Gray, USF's Department of Humanities and Cultural Studies, particularly HCS Chair Professor Andrew Barish and Office Manager Edgardo Valentin, USF's Humanities Institute and its Director Liz Kisak, the Binzager Institute for Sustainable Prosperity, including Binzager President Professor Fadel Kaboub, Research Director Professor Matthew Forstatter, and Research Assistant Bronwyn Espin. Also on this list is USF's Muma College of Business, the Department of Communication, and the School of Interdisciplinary Global Studies. As for individuals, we want to extend a warm thanks to Director of Meetings and Special Events at the University of South Florida, Christina Goldstein and her team of student volunteers, to Jeanette Abrahamson and the student volunteer video team, including Juliet Lowe, Joshua Torres Negron, Isabel Eugene, and Gabriel Fritas, all from the Zimmerman School of Advertising and Mass Communications. To Nikki Couture at Circa 1949 Florida Bar and Beer Garden, to HCS graduate student Max Sejo for co-planning the conference and developing the course website, to friend and colleague Brendan Cook for helping us and providing moral support along the way, to my colleague and co-parent, Professor Amy Rust, to HCS's own graduate student moderators, and finally to all conference presenters, both live and remote. And now for some remarks from the co-director of the Humanities Division, Louisiana State University Professor of Rhetorical Studies, William Saas.
Thank you, Scott, for that wonderful introduction and overview of what MMN-HD, as I propose to call it, is all about. As Scott said, I'm William Saas, and I'm Professor of Rhetoric in the Department of Communication Studies at Louisiana State University, and I'm very glad to have the chance to share with you some about our plans and ambitions for building out the Modern Money Network Humanities Division over the coming weeks and months, and to provide an overview for this weekend's events. But before I do so, I want to take a moment to encourage those of you in attendance who are new to modern monetary theory to feel welcome to ask questions throughout the conference. We're super glad you're here, and we'll be eager to pause, discuss, and clarify any concepts, terms, or acronyms that may be unfamiliar to you. We are friendly folks, so just to ask. Returning to the plans of MMN-HD, most immediately we will be building out the Humanities Division website, which we'll use to archive, promote, and generally encourage all things MMN and MMN-HD. Thank you to Max Seho again for putting together our current website. It's worked fabulously, and we're very pleased to know that you'll continue working with us to build out the new official version. So you may notice that we have cameras and camera operators at our various venues throughout this weekend. Pending permissions from the panelists, recordings of most of this weekend's events will be shared publicly on the new website. We may also post some audio-only goodies there too. Finally, we invite you to join us in developing some essential resources for the site, including a repository for interdisciplinary publications and for syllabi we develop for relevant college courses. I'm confident that other potential uses for the website will become clear throughout our time together today and tomorrow. To that end, please consider using the hashtag #MoneyOnTheLeft, all one word, when sharing about this weekend's events on social media. So more important than developing our web presence, we commit over the coming weeks and months to continue to consciously develop MMN-HD as an organization oriented toward counteracting those social and institutional forces that maintain economics as a monoculture of mostly white, mostly cisgendered men. Much like our colleagues in the MMN, we clearly recognize that in order to be truly heterodox in our thinking, we must also be truly diverse in our organizational constitution. To that end, we need more perspectives reflecting the experiences of women and people of color. Now, we believe that the interdisciplinary mission of the Modern Money Network Humanities Division makes accomplishing the goal of building a more affirmatively diverse and pluralistic organization not only more urgent, but also more likely. As Scott noted, we have scholars here representing the fields of economics, film studies, history, legal studies, philosophy, rhetorical studies, along with practicing artists, longtime activists, and emerging politicians. A lot of conferences talk the talk of interdisciplinarity, but with Scott, I believe that this conference uniquely walks the walk. But we won't pat ourselves on the back just yet. While each of us comes to this conference with a unique set of experiences, perspectives, and vocabularies, we also recognize that it is imperative to remain open and inviting to those with other, less well-represented sets of experiences, perspectives, and vocabularies. Fortunately, many of us here regularly have opportunities to share our work with ready and diverse audiences of students, activists, and community members. Others of us often share relevant news stories and articles with their social networks on Twitter and Facebook. We think that these are vital steps that we must continue to take, and to do so in truly heterodox and democratic ways. It's most appropriate, then, that we should begin our time together today with a panel on left imaginaries, with papers that explore the radical potential of modern money for developing a more robust democratic culture. After a short break, we'll return to discuss how the politics of place articulate with the politics of modern money, and how they might do so differently in future. Lunch comes at 12:30. We return in the afternoon for a panel that takes the MMT lens to contemporary film and media aesthetics. After that, we've planned an hour-long coffee break for conversation among conference attendees. We'll conclude the day at 5 o'clock in 115 Cooper Hall with Professor Matthew Forstatter's keynote address titled For the Children, Toward Sustainable Prosperity and Global Citizenship. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning in that same room for panels on rhetoric, law, and digital arts, as well as conversations with Connie-Ella Ng and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. We'll wrap Saturday with an exciting public event at Circa 1949, where Rowan Gray, Benjamin Wilson, and Robert Hockett will present their project for reimagining digital currency, connecting universities to communities for a new green economy. So it's a pretty exciting weekend, and we're glad you're all here. Got people